Hey guys, this is York again. Sorry it's been a while since I've put up a video. I was trying to fix the popping sound on my mic and I think I minimized it even though I think it's slightly still detectable. I wanted to show you what I've been doing lately on my Witch Doctor and how I've been making build decisions. I've been running with the same skills for a long time now. Completely changed how I play and how I have built my stats. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. First of all, here's the build. I'm still using Grasp of the Dead with Unbreakable Grasp, 80% slow. It's invaluable and I use it pretty much on cooldown. Fire Bats, Dire Bats is my #1 ability. I spam that. Soul Harvests with the Siphon rune. Other runes would be nice, but I need the Siphon for reflex damage mobs, which are this build's biggest weakness, and you'll see why. Spirit Walk with Honored Guest. The mana regen is very, very nice, especially if you get in a tight spot. Also with this build, sometimes when you're kiting, you're not in danger of dying, so Spirit Walk becomes a way to regenerate mana very quickly. Hex with Jinx on it is pretty OP. The Hex target takes 20% additional damage, so with elite mobs that's excellent. I used to have hedge magic, but I've started getting smarter about how I use health globes that drop, and I found that I don't really need the heal from Hex. I also got a weapon that has some leech on it, which isn't great in Inferno because it's 80% nerfed, but it does make a big difference. And finally, Fetish Army with Legion of Daggers. These guys are great, and they're even better after the patch because they tank mortar mobs for you, so you can literally stand about 10 yards from mortar mobs and just spam your bats while the Fetish Army stands there and fights them. For passives, I do have Pierce the Veil in the same build as Dire Bats being spammed. It's an expensive spell. 122 mana times 1.3, 30% more expensive. That's why you need Vision Quest. But Vision Quest doesn't feel clunky in this build because I'm using 5 CD spells. Grasp, Soul Harvest, Spirit Walk, Hex, and Fetish Army. Only 4 of these need to be on cooldown to trigger the Vision Quest. So that means you can always save Spirit Walk if you need to. If you're not in danger of dying, you can save another spell. For example, Fetish Army if you'd rather save that for an elite pack, which I find isn't really necessary. Fetish Army is just fun to do on cooldown as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and also you can save Soul Harvest if you want to, and that way you can wait until you can get a 5-stack and just really tear stuff up. Okay, so that's the build. Now the stats, which is much more important. Instead of prioritizing attack speed, like a lot of Witch Doctors did, I changed over to crit pretty soon after they announced that attack speed was going to be nerfed. You should know that crit can be on the helm, the amulet, the bracers, the gloves, both rings, the offhand, and you can get 1% crit on legs. It's a legendary. So I'll go through each of these pieces quickly. My helm, notice, has 10 mana regen. For this build to work, you need at least 20 mana regen. Some on your helm and preferably some on your offhand, though you can get it on your dagger. Also, my helm reduces mana cost of Fire Bats by 8 mana. This is a huge deal. It makes a big, big difference. I was very impressed. I can spam without going out of mana at all. This was only $7.99k in the auction house. This is probably my luckiest drop ever, this necklace. It dropped for me a couple of days ago. It has a perfect crit roll, 8.5, with solid intelligence and some damage. By the way, a perfect crit roll on a helm for a Voodoo Doctor, or a Voodoo Mask is 4.5, so this is pretty close. Best roll for bracers is 6%, but this has 3% and a very nice intelligence roll. And gloves, this is pretty close to best in slot for, pretty close, meaning it doesn't have intelligence. For my build, it has a perfect crit chance roll, 10%, and an almost perfect critical hit damage chance, 47%. I bought these for $6 million. They're one of my most expensive pieces of gear. The rings, a ring can have 4.5% crit chance and 34% crit damage increase. So this one just has the damage increase. This guy is pretty perfect for crit. 4.5 chance crit and 33, just shy of the perfect 34 roll. For your offhand, I have an 8% crit chance instead of 8.5, which is the max roll, but I have very solid damage on this mojo, 90 to 362. I haven't seen any other ones that have that kind of damage with such a good crit roll, so I guess I got pretty lucky. This was also another drop, so this was another really lucky drop. It increases mana regeneration by 11 per second. Okay, other important notes. You need to be able to move quickly in Inferno, especially later acts. So I went ahead and bought these Sage's Seekers, which I got for 1.5 million, which I thought was a steal considering how much resistance to all elements and intelligence they have, and including the 12% movement speed. I also bought for way less. These were under 900k. These legendary pants that have 1% crit chance and another increased movement speed. I swap these in when I have fast to fix mobs. My damage does go down by 5,000, but it's not that big of a deal. Anything else? Yep, my weapon. Notice I have I spent a ton of gold. It was probably 3 million gold just to craft that gem. It's unbelievable how expensive crafting gems can get. And that's all I could afford. I can't go up to the 90% gem yet. But the best roll for a weapon in this build, you really want to make sure the damage is high, not the damage per second. You want the damage numbers to be high. Over 500 for the lower number is good. Over 600 is great. For the top number, over 900 is good. Over 1,000 is great. And over 1,100 is crazy. Very difficult to find. And yeah, I think that's it for the gear. So with what I have here, I have a 46% chance to crit. That's using the Scoundrel Follower. He adds a 3% chance to crit with 239% crit damage. So the character sheet says that my damage is 47.7k, but my bats hit for about 40k. So in other words, my damage doesn't sound as high as some of those Witch Doctors that had like 65k damage before the nerf to attack speed, but that was their damage per second. This is, when they divided that by their attack speed, their damage per cast was not so high. The damage per cast on this build is extremely high. And I'm going to go in and kill one set of elites just to show you how it looks. You should know that I will be putting up another video after this that shows me killing several other groups of elites with this build, harder ones, so you can see. But this is an Act 1 group. I run in, run back out, and cast Soul Harvest to get stacks, and then I just spam. And they're dead. Did you see those numbers? I often crit for over 250,000. I've seen a few over 300,000. It's incredible what happens when you start getting more crit. That said, I've been using this build for a while, since before I had 30k damage, and it's viable in Act 2 very much so, but this can get me through Act 3, and Act 4 is still challenging because I just don't have the resist. You'll notice I'm only in the 400s. Now when I get a 5 stack of Soul Harvest, those resists go up to 5, some of these go up to 500, because you get about 50, 60 resist all from just doing the 5 stack of Soul Harvest. So yeah, that's it. Hope you liked this. Hope it helps you in some ways. I'm psyched. I have a bid in on a Visage of Gaia, or however you pronounce it, one of the legendary voodoo helms. I really want to win it. It has 4.5 crit, and it reduces mana cost of bats by 10 and mana regen of 11, so it's slightly better than this helm, and it has a socket, which would be great because I could definitely use more health. Yeah, anyway, I'll keep you up to date, and next video will be just me killing elite after elite, so you can see how it looks with different kinds of bad combinations. I'll try to find the hardest combinations. Alright guys, see you later.